Welcome everybody, good afternoon and welcome to the CIH Podcast, which is entitled Choose Housing and Why Housing is a Great Career Choice. My name is Jill Orco and I am the Member Engagement Team Manager here at the Chartered Institute of Housing. Today, I'm absolutely delighted to be hosting this podcast for you, and I'm joined by three fantastic guests who I'm just going to take a moment to introduce you to as part of our introductions into the podcast. First of all, we're joined by Ellie Holt, who is the CIH President and the Chief Operating Officer at Peabody. We're joined by Callum Chomchuk, who is the National Director at CIH Scotland. And we're also joined by Alicia Kaur, who is the Development Manager at Homes England and the Chair for CIH Futures. Can I just take a moment to welcome you all today and thank you very much for your time. We'll move on. So I've got a series of questions, but also please do feel free to add in additional comments and observations as we go along. It would be great to take this opportunity to talk to you about all things that are great about celebrating careers in the housing sector. So first of all, I'm going to take this first question. The first question I'd like to pose to you is to find out a bit about how each of you got into the housing sector. You all have very different roles and working for different organisations, and it'd be great to understand how you individually sort of came into the housing sector. Ellie, because I can see you first on my screen, can I come to you first of all?
Absolutely. So I, as many people say, fell into the social housing sector almost by accident. I left school at 16 and I took an admin job at what was a small housing association then called Cherwell Housing Trust in Oxford. I really didn't know anything about housing other than I'd grown up in a social home, and I didn't really understand what a housing association was and how it was different from a local authority. But I quickly became hooked by hearing stories from supported housing officers that worked in the office, and I saw the impact of the work that they were doing in what was mother and baby units then, refuges, and with young men on probation. And this experience really made me see the good work that housing associations do, and I realised that it wasn't just a job. It was a vocation, and it was something that could give you a really good social purpose, and I've stayed in the sector ever since because of the sense of purpose that it provides. So I found myself in an office in a housing association and fell in love with housing.
Lovely. Thanks ever so much for that, Ellie. Callum, could I go to you next?
Yeah, of course, Jill. So, I mean, much like Ellie, so I fell into housing, but I've had a career before the housing. I've had two jobs in housing, one of which is my current job as National Director at CIH Scotland, which I've had for 6.5 years, and my other job was Deputy Director at CIH Scotland, which I had for 6 months. My background isn't housing. I worked in PR, I worked in lobbying, I worked in campaigning before that. So I didn't have that background that Ellie speaks of, and probably most people spoke of, but I was always aware of housing, I was always aware of in the policy environment, the importance of it, how it was so deterministic of people's opportunities and the things we all talk about at CIH. You know, I didn't speak it from a place of insight, but I spoke of it from a place of interest and understanding. And then I got that opportunity at CIH. Somebody took a chance on me. And I think that's really important. We talk about people joining the sector at a young age, and it's really important. It's really keen. We want to grow the profession as broad as we can. And we want to bring people from school and college and university into it. But actually, there's a lot of people with different life experience, maybe it's later in their life, actually have got a lot to add. And I think that's probably an example of that.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for that, Callum. And Alicia, if I could go to you now.
Yeah, of course. So I suppose probably the opposite of what Ellie said. I intentionally came into housing. I think my sort of career, or well, my career aspirations to come into housing started as a teenager when I started attending homelessness feeds in Birmingham city centre. For me, that was quite, especially as a teenager, it's quite eye-opening to realise the extent of homelessness, literally on the doorstep. So for me, the feed was a sort of, yes, this is me doing the front line, but actually, what's the bigger question here? What is the answer that needs the response? And for me, it's the housing crisis. So I then went on to do my A-levels to sort of cater towards me doing a degree in city and regional planning. And I then joined my local housing association as a development graduate and worked through my sort of career upwards from there, really.
Brilliant. Thank you as well to the three of you. So it's really interesting to hear such a diverse range of different routes in and the different roles that you've all taken, and also that sort of two of you fell into housing, and Halisha, that you've intentionally chosen housing as your career path. Thank you. So we know that there's so much going on within the housing sector at the moment in terms of challenges around, building, sort of government's challenges of building, 1.5 million new homes, the professionalism agenda, all of the things that have changed around regulation. Why do you feel that it's important to bring new talent into the housing sector? And if I can mix it up a little bit just now, Halisha, if I could start with you on this occasion.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the first thing really is I feel we've got to sort of acknowledge the fact that we've got the next generation of not just the workforce that we need coming in, but our tenants. And if we don't have the next generation of workforce, how are we ever going to know how to cater for our tenants? And I think we're living in a sort of time now where, you look at technology advancements, you look at the way that we're sort of shopping, the way that we're living, it's very different to actually what the sector's history has been. And for me, it's about if we don't invest and we don't bring in that young talent, we're probably sort of going to miss that wave of keeping up to date really with what it is that our tenants need. And it's our tenants really that, and our service users that are at the absolute front line of everything that we do within the sector. So that's one massive thing for me that's really valuable. But also I think it's about sort of bringing in fresh, innovative, new ideas, as we have the next generation coming into the workforce and we're investing in them. I think we can already see it. I find it crazy, the next generation are coming in completely different ways of thinking, bringing completely different sort of challenges and skill sets into the workforce as well. And I don't think that we can sort of, we can't let that go amiss. There's lots of talent. And I think the next generation want these sorts of jobs. They want to be working in fields that are, it's all about social value and what impact is my day-to-day sort of job having. I think as a sector, we really need to scoop that up whilst we can.
Brilliant. Thank you, Halisha. That's really insightful, and also picking up on what you've said about the challenges of the different ways of working, and some of the things that were springing to my mind there were the importance of things like reverse mentoring. How things like that would really support in terms of sort of professional development opportunities that perhaps we should be looking at more in terms of sort of how we're able to facilitate that, I suppose. And Callum, could I go to you on that next question?
Yeah, of course, Jill. I mean, we are constantly needing to evolve in the sector, aren't we? Our ambitions are massive. And they should be massive because actually the expectations on us are hugely significant. So we need to step up to that. And I couldn't agree more with what Halisha said there. We have got so much experience and insight in the sector, but we need more, and we need to supply a workforce and a profession to deliver on our ambition. My mind boggles about some of the things we could do in robotics and AI. How we innovate, the kind of challenges in net zero, how we construct homes of the future in the way that actually they provide they're safe, they're secure, they're affordable, but they're high standard, but we can deliver them at a cost that we can build them at scale. These are big challenges, and and we need more talent because we need to push ourselves. I think Halisha's right. Tenants want more for themselves, but we need to find a solution to that. So I think it's like anything. If you can get that pool of talent, you can bring people together and you can organise them. Actually, we can find solutions. There's always got to be a place for government. There's always got to be a place for regulators. We need them as well. we need their money. We need some of the structures to make sure that tenants have safety and security. That's really important. But the kind of the appetite and the ambition for people to come into this profession is essential. And I think, there's so many other competing professions people could go into. So it's really up to us to really kind of plant a flag about why housing should be the choice for them and why that they should, as Ellie's campaign says, choose housing.
Lovely, brilliant. Thank you, Callum. And Ellie, if I could lastly go to you on that particular question.
Sure. So, housing is a dynamic sector and it requires a diverse set of skills. Callum sort of touched on robotics and AI, but we think about things like technical expertise, people skills, leadership, adaptability, and resilience. If I just I was just thinking there as you were reading the question, what roles, can I see from my desk in the morning? We've got people that work in finance, HR, development project managers, salespeople, data analysts, coders. When I'm out and about, we've got caretakers, gardeners, wellbeing specialists, care workers. There couldn't be a more diverse and dynamic sector to work in. And new talent brings fresh perspective and innovative ideas, and they are essential to Callum's point for addressing the complex challenges that we face, such as building safety, homelessness, the affordability crisis. So I think that we're a dynamic and diverse sector with a diverse range of jobs, a diverse range of challenges, and we also have a diverse resident base. And absolutely there is talent that we can draw upon and need to draw upon more, actually, so that we reflect the communities that we serve and promote inclusivity and diversity.
Brilliant, thank you all. So linked into that question and talking, about the importance of why we really do need to bring in new talent, and so many different areas covered in terms of our needs in the future and sort of technology and people skills. What challenges do you think that we have today in actually that recruitment process? What are the challenges that we are facing with recruitment? Ellie, if I go and start with you again on this occasion then.
Sure, yeah. So we're grappling with a critical skills and labour shortage, which has been exacerbated by regulatory change on building safety and housing quality, as well as net zero ambitions. We welcome these changes, but of course that has increased the demand for maintenance, repairs and home improvements, which are the things that our residents tell us that they want done well from us more often than not. And we are struggling to recruit and retain workers with the right skills. It's 5 years ago, if you can believe it, since COVID-19 started, but we are still grappling with the impact of that, and which was further impacted by Brexit. And there are specific trades and occupations such as roofers, carpenters and joiners, surveyors, that we just don't have in house. And I know, for example, in London, I'm part of the London Homes Coalition, we only have 78% of the surveyors that we need to deliver our asset management and new build investments. And that is, that just demonstrates the critical skill shortage that we have. I could go on because there are also things around that women represent only 14% of the construction workforce. And, it really is a bit of a dire situation for some of the roles that we have in housing at the moment.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you for that, Ellie. And you touched upon the construction in terms of sort of the female workers, and as part of the webinar that we did recently, as part of Women in Construction Week, International Women's Day and National Careers Week, following the research that had been done by CIOB, there was a great interest in young people coming to a career in construction, but actually what was identified was it wasn't talked about, that it within schools as much as it should have been. So thank you for touching on that as well. Callum, could I go to you next? And I assume there's going to be sort of challenges across all of the nations, but also there might be some specific Scotland examples that you might want to draw upon or refer to.
Yeah, thanks very much, Jill. So I think for me, I agree with what Ellie said, and that sense around awareness is critical. So when we talk about housing as a profession, but not enough people do. it just doesn't happen at the scale that we need to. When you talk about any other part of economic, civic, community life, anything, you have workforce strategies. When you're talking about the health profession, you would never look at a vision for the health sector. It doesn't talk about recruitment for doctors and nurses. You wouldn't look at vision for education. It doesn't talk about teachers and teaching assistants. When we talk about housing, we tend to talk about the built environment. We sort of forget is all the professions that Ellie's talked about and more. That we'd forget about that, and I think that the job for us as housing professionals, those are part of the CIH, is need to challenge government, you challenge skills agencies to actually really focus on, if you want that built environment, and we all share the ambition, we all want these shiny, beautiful homes that everybody can live in. Then they need to be built and they need to be managed, and the people in them often need to be supported as well. And that's the bit we need to get to. We need a positive vision for housing as a profession. I don't think we're quite there. I think we've certainly come some of the way, and I think some of the work, particularly in England, on and the professionalism is a really, really helpful. I do think there's a challenge there, because sometimes the centre in professionalism might create barriers to entry, and we need to be mindful that people feel, well, we're creating it's a hurdle to get over in the profession. So we need to be sure, no, this is about, once you're in there, we'll support you to the highest standards, but there's still 1,000 doors open how you get into it. So I think we need to be much more better at leading ourselves, but also working with governments across the UK and Ireland about what they should do about supporting housing as a profession, ensure that the people are just as important as the buildings.
Yeah. Brilliant, thank you, Callum. And picking up on the point about supporting people once they enter the profession, as organisations within the profession, housing organisations have a really good reputation of being good employers in terms of, the Times Best Employer, leagues and things like that. So we really have got a lot of great things to celebrate in terms of the brilliant initiatives that we are putting into place, but we do need to be doing more. And Helicia, could I go to you on that last question, please?
Yeah, absolutely. I think just touching on a few of the points that have already sort of been made, but just adding to, I think the one thing is like sort of Callum said, we've got to acknowledge that I don't think that we can resolve all of this alone. And it's about, are we out there as a sector creating partnerships? And the one thing for me is, particularly with educational institutions, we need to get ourselves, before we even get to the recruiting stage, into schools, into colleges, into universities, to really sort of spread that message of who we are as a sector. And, Ellie's earlier point, we have everything in the sector. And it's always interesting when, you speak to people about your job, and it's always the sort of private sector side of things that they tend to assume, or, very often, when I talk about housing, people tend to relate it to, the councils, and there's not enough of an understanding, before we even get to, are we recruiting, actually, have we even got that pipeline of people who know who we are, who are considering jobs within our sector? And I think that's a massive thing that I think we probably need to look inwards as a sector to change, because I find that we can very often probably live in our own little sector bubble, and we are a great sector and we've managed to achieve a lot, but we can't carry on achieving things alone. We have to create those partnerships.
Yeah, brilliant. No, thank you all for your responses to that question, and completely agree with everything that you've said in terms of that work around the partnerships and being the advocate for the sector. As you will all know, as CIH members, that shines through in terms of lots of the elements within the professional standards as well, about being an advocate for the sector and representing housing as a career of choice, and that partnership working. So all of that sort of embedded throughout the professional standards, which leads us on very nicely to start to talk a bit about your campaign, Ellie, if that's okay. So if I could come to you on that. Ellie, could you talk to us a bit more about why you created the Choose Housing campaign?
Yeah, so I've spoken about this before, and I've been around to a lot of the CIH regions and spoken to members, but I grew up in social housing, and social housing really gave my family the best start in life. So there's a sort of values reason why, for me, choosing housing as a career is so important. But but equally, housing isn't often always seen as a first choice career. So Alicia chose to be in housing, which is great, which is what we want to do as part of the campaign. But actually, the majority of people that I've spoken to found themselves in a housing association or working for a local authority, perhaps in the housing department. So I want to change that narrative. I want people to actively choose to come into the vibrant, impactful and inclusive sector that we are. And I really want to inspire people to choose housing. And certainly I think we would benefit from many more residents joining us and coming into our organisations. We have many residents working with us at Peabody, but actually I would like to see us really promoting housing as a career of choice for our residents so that we're much more reflective of the communities that we work in.
Brilliant. Thank you for that, Ellie. So again, sort of picking up still on your campaign, if that is okay. So could you outline to us, what does Choose Housing do to help the sector to promote careers in housing?
Yeah, so the point of Choose Housing was that it's all of our responsibility to promote housing as a career. It's not down to our organisations to do it. It's down to us individually to raise awareness about the amazing career opportunities that are available. So Choose Housing provides resources and guidance on how to engage with communities, schools and colleges. Only next week we've got a Bring Your Child to Work Day, and I'm using some of the materials to talk to children aged 4 to 16 in different groups, obviously, about why it's great working in housing. So there's a toolkit that's available on the CIH website, which includes tips, handouts, graphics. It makes it so easy for anybody, either individually or as an organisation, to promote housing careers.
Brilliant. No, that's great. Thank you, Ellie. And I'll be really interested and excited to see the some of the social media, perhaps on the Bring Your Child to Work initiatives that are going on, or anything around that. So that sounds brilliant.
We'll see how that goes, Jill. Me and children, it could be a bit of a disaster, but
I'm sure it'll be fine. Lovely. So, Ellie, sorry, still focusing on you, if that's okay for the moment. Can you also talk to us a bit about your fundraising, your chosen charity for your presidential year?
So, Peabody's largely based in London, and in London, 1 in 21 children currently lives in temporary accommodation, and across the UK, 1 in 4 children live in poverty, which is just staggering. And Bernardo's is doing incredible work to give these children a chance. So I chose Bernardo's in an effort really to help vulnerable children and families to get a better start in life and a bit more support perhaps when they need it. So I am, for some bizarre reason, I'm going to abseil down one of Peabody's buildings with 24 other victims who I've selected to raise money for Bernardo's and to continue to make a positive impact in the housing sector. We're up to about £20,000 already, if you can believe it, in fundraising efforts, but there's still time to donate. You can find the information on the CIH website in the Choose Housing area. There's lots of great resources in there as well, so I'm going to keep directing people to that part of the website. But if you did want to donate, there's still an opportunity to do that. It's happening on, can you believe it, Friday the 13th, which is one month today. So wish me luck.
We wish you the best of luck, Ellie. So yeah, absolutely wish you the best of luck, and well done on the amount that you've managed to raise collectively, sort of as part of your campaign, your fundraising. So well done on that. We're coming to the end of our podcast, but before we sort of finish up, I would like to just sort of again take the opportunity to sort of go around you all as individual panelists. And just as this finishing piece, it would be sort of a good opportunity to sort of ask you, please approach this however you would like, whether it's about one piece of advice or guidance that you would give to somebody new in the sector, or if there is anything that you wanted to share with us in terms of sort of like concluding remarks. So Callum, if I can start with you on that first of all.
Yeah, thanks, Jill. I think for me, the big thing is just go for it. there are so many opportunities in this sector, so many opportunities in the profession. You can do literally anything. Whether you're interested in care, you're interested in communications, you're interested in robotics, you see yourself as a leader, as customer service, fire. I mean, we are an economy and a society within ourselves with housing. There's absolutely everything possible there. So if you've got an ambition about kind of helping people, there's absolutely no better place. And the great thing about housing is it's everywhere. So actually, you can find potentially a job, whether you want to work for a housing association, a local authority, you want to work in the private renting sector, whatever it is, wherever you are across these islands, there's housing, and there'll be housing organisations that are looking for staff. And if you're interested in helping people and you're interested in anything at all, actually housing is totally the job for you. So just get involved, learn, and you'll find that you'll find the kind of most rewarding career you can possibly imagine. So go for it.
Yeah. Brilliant. Thank you for that, Callum. Really appreciate that. Alicia, if I could come to you on that next one.
I think my one big tip is networking. We're a really great sector for networking, and there's a lot of great people that are really open to having, whichever conversation it is. And I think you can find a lot of guidance and a lot of inspiration actually from our colleagues that are in the sector, and also just from, I suppose, CIH Futures perspective. That's one of the reasons why we exist, to sort of, have those conversations with people who are new to the sector, also people who are new to their careers within housing. And you can find us on LinkedIn, find any of our board members on LinkedIn and have a chat with us. And of course, I'm sure Ellie's always open to conversation as well as the CIH Futures founder.
Brilliant, lovely. Yeah, thank you for that, Alicia, and thank you for talking about networking and about CIH Futures. Also gives me the opportunity to refer to CIH membership as well, in terms of the wider context about the opportunities that CIH membership provides for our members to get involved in networking, whether that's, as part of virtual events that we do, face-to-face events that we do, round tables, those informal sessions, and so on. And obviously the opportunities for that networking through our mentoring program, and much, much more as well. So thank you for that. And Ellie, if I can just finish up and ask you that very final sort of questions and sort of concluding remarks.
So I touched on this at the start about me coming into housing as a school leaver, and I think my advice would be that this is an inclusive sector. You can come with no qualifications. You can come with lots of qualifications. You can come from, you can be a carer, you can be from a different background, you can be poor, you can be rich. It really is a sector that welcomes everybody. So I would encourage everybody to come to the sector. Don't let fear or self-doubt or hold you back. You can get qualified through the CIH offers great qualifications. You can learn, you can adapt along the way, and housing, we are so every day I feel like a lucky person working in housing, and genuinely I do. It is a privilege to work in such a fantastic environment. And so that would be my advice. Give it a go.
Brilliant. Oh, I'd just like to thank you all as my guests on today's podcast. You've been absolutely fantastic, all three of you. So thank you very much for that. And also thank you very much to all of our listeners. If we just to suggest that you tune into our next podcast on our website and on our YouTube channel as well. So without further ado, again, thank you very much to all of our speakers, and goodbye.